We start from the beginning.
Yep.
Okay. He doesn't want.
Are these on?
That.
Okay. You ready?
Yes, I'm all set.
Okay. This is a little story about my mom, Mimi Findlay. We're going to talk about in the beginning where you're from and what you did, and then we're going to next talk about the middle, and then towards the end, the ending chapters and what you have achieved. So, in the beginning, where did you grow up, and what was life like?
I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, in 1934. My parents had been married for 5 years. Bob had a job. It was a power company, Bob being my father. Dancing Mom, there's a picture here of her at Lincoln School, sort of dancing like a...
Isadora Duncan.
Anyway, that is my father and Sally and my mother, which we will now call Noni. Two things. One was this presentation, which was something to look at, and what the subject was, the design of Rhode Island doorways. That made me notice doorways as I walked home every day. Made a very large impact in my life, hearing that story. Anyway, that was number one. And the other aspect was miniature rooms from Chicago that were designed and then made by a craftsman with copying the original period for furnishings and wall covering or wall carvings of English and American interiors. And the museum had built these little steps and look into the windows, each one being a different interior. And I couldn't believe that they actually had furniture that matched the paneling and so on. And I saw a chair. I remember that was one that my mother had. And I thought, oh, I see. I put that in context with seeing it in its own proper period. So those were two things that obviously affected my life, because that's what I did after I grew up. Anyway, there's our graduation picture, and it was the end of co-education for me.
So there she is, the tall one in the back.
Big, tall girl, just way over, much taller than any of the boys.
So that was Mary Ritter's house? No.
No, that was the brown barn up at the corner.
Oh, so they changed it back into a barn, and what were you going to say about it? Thinking that they got rid of the White House, they
turned
it into a barn.
Oh, I was at the planning and zoning hearing when the lawyer, a woman, was going to ask if they're going to get permission to demolish what Mary Ritter's house. And I talked to the lawyer right then and said, but that was the historic barn. And she said, oh, we didn't know that. I said, it'd be great to see it as looking like a barn again.
And they did.
And they did.
Oh, good job.
Yeah, about the only thing I saved in New Canaan was the barn.
So when was your house built?
1934 was a WPA project. And he built this house, and I'll show you the other house he built, which is exactly the same plan, but different materials. Well, where are you, Mushroom? I just saw it before when I was walking back. Well, I'll find it when I come back. Anyway, this is all wetlands.
Yep.
So it's unbuildable.
Good.
And here is some of the original stone wall. You can see it back there.
Going too fast there, lady.
I asked Louis to clear off the bird's nests that were right outside the door there.
Mm-hmm.
And he put one absolutely beautifully formed. He put one on the wall.
I wanted to ask you about what World War II, and how old were you, and what was happening in your world?
Yeah. I do remember in Buttonwoods, them talking about going to war,
Mm.
and would my father be um, drafted? They said no, probably not, because we're making parachute buckles, plating parachute buckles, not even manufacturing. And he said no, so I felt relieved, and that's I never thought about it again. My father was like an air raid patrolman, and whenever we had an air raid uh, signal, that we'd have to close all the curtains. We all had dark uh, shades, and if there was any light showing, my father would go up to the house owner and say, "You've got to cover that or turn it off," because they were afraid of bombing. The boats, German submarines, did come into New York Harbor, but I don't know about anywhere near Providence.
So when you applied to colleges, how did you know which college to go to, or what did you do?
Well, I was more or less dating a guy named Kenvin Roth. His mother went to Smith. So a couple times I was invited to dinner at the Ross house, and she said, "Well, now you should go to Smith. Are you going to apply?" It's the only place I applied.
Ah, and you got
And
in.
it was important that I get in. Yeah, and I didn't tell you at 13, my heart was really broken by Henry Rowland, who was my boyfriend, and he and two other guys used to hang out on our porch. Every morning they'd start coming over, the three of them. Anyway, they ended up really good friends, and we all watched the first television together. It was a neighbor down the street who announced that they had television, and if somebody could come and watch the Red Sox play. So we all went in, but the fact that you could see it and hear it, it was really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, and everybody really got a kick out of that. It was fun to see the birth of television.
Huh. But okay, so how did your heart get broken by
by Henry Rowland?
Yeah, what happened there?
He was part of the funny group that came every morning. And then he would personally invite me to dance with him. The casino had a formal dance, and any age could come. So I went, and the boys all asked us to dance. But at the age of 13, his family was moving to Atlanta, Georgia, and I would never see him again. So we planned about the week before he left, we'll sneak on outside my window and walk up the backyards of 2 or 3 houses and get to the post office. So he helped me climb out the window after my parents were in bed. And we walked up, and then we just sat and hugged and talked. Then finally, I guess we did it 2 or 3 times, this little rendezvous. And then he was gone. And so anyway, the last night that we did this, and I came back to my room, I was crying, and my mother heard me cry upstairs. So she sent Bob down to send me upstairs to her bed, and he would sleep in my bed. And so she said, "What's the matter, Mama?" And I said, "Well, I was very sad that that Henry was going away and I wasn't going to see him." And she tried to comfort me, and then eventually I fell asleep, and we never mentioned it again. But so I did get to Smith and enjoyed it very much. And then I went on my junior year abroad.
What made you decide to go abroad?
Well, I was a French major. And but it's a very good program where the students live in a French family. The main point of going to X was to learn diction, and that was our goal, not to speak another word of English, we were told, while we were in Europe. Anyway, it was painful, but I could see the point.
This is Mimi's junior year abroad, and it's a huge book.
Memory book, we call
Memory
them.
book, yeah. And we really can't go page by page because we will just be doing that forever. But
I have not looked at it in 50 years.
what I noticed that is that she met my dad at the very end of the book here. So maybe we can. Oh, what is this? This
That's
is
my
the.
passport. Oh, it's an
It's in.
international
It's in French.
for me.
Automobile International. Was it a driver's license? Driver's?
I don't know. It was issued in March of 1955. Yeah, and that's me.
So this is a picture. She looks like she has her lipstick on.
Get lots of lipstick. I was away from Lincoln School. I could wear lipstick.
Yeah. Wow. And your signature. I didn't realize you had been to all these different places on that year abroad. It's like, wow.
Yes.
Because you went to the Netherlands.
So I was sitting, leaning over, writing a letter to my mother on this wall that was along the Seine. This gentleman who walked by me as I was writing letters, I knew his English because he had a coat and tie on, and you never saw an American man walking around with a coat and tie in Paris. Yeah. A minute later, he walked by again, going in the other direction. He turned around, and I waited, and he walked by and got close to me and said, "Well, it's a nice day, isn't it?"
In English.
In English. No English accent, in Americanese. So I said, "Oh, yeah, come and." And so he said, and I said, "Come and sit down." So he did, and he had been drafted in the army from Florida, but his name was called out ahead of time. Commander of whatever. He was looking for an Irving Adams, and Peter's first name was Irving, although he hated it. So Peter raised his hand and he said, "Well, you're going to Paris," and was sent to Versailles, where there was a center of communications. He was in cryptography.
So did he graduate from Trinity and then get sent to France?
Then get drafted, yes.
He got drafted, okay.
So I have some kind of graduation program.
So you met him and you went to Deauville, looks like.
Well, met him in Paris, and we had such a good time. We decided to get out of Paris, and we went to Deauville.
So your mother had never been to Europe before, ever?
I don't think so.
She must have thought you were going to, like, Mars or something.
Yes, she did. But anyway, I did get to Italy, and we had decided that we would meet in Italy in a particular village, which now probably is not a village anymore. So I was sitting in the center of town. I thought, well, this is sort of a likely place to meet somebody that you're waiting for. And I sat on this little thing, and there he drove up in his little sports car, which was a convertible. So I had a partner to drive along with. I never drove that car, but he drove all the way, and then back to Paris. And I wrote to my parents that I had met this. I mean, they knew I knew Peter. He and I were traveling together, and I thought she'd probably faint and be horrified. And her answer was, "I'm so glad you found someone to travel with." Peter let me keep his car so that he didn't have to find a parking place in New York, because he was now working at Hanover Bank once he got out of the service. I drove down every weekend to New York to stay there for the weekend. he had a friend in New York who was traveling with an old schoolmate of mine, the great modern dancer. She was living in New York. He was dating her, and he was a real sleazebag. I decided, how am I going to get Peter Adams to propose to me?
Mm-hmm.
So I decided one evening, just spontaneously, I started to cry. And he said, what's the matter? And I said, we were leaving a double date with Ronnie and this sleazebag. And I said, I just am so scared I'm going to end up like Ronnie. I said, I just am so afraid of that happening to me next year when I'm working in the city. And then he proposed. So, and I did the same thing with David Findlay, too. I had to burst into tears and say something sad. And anyway, that's the beginning of a really happy marriage. And cut short too soon.
Video two, talking about the mansion. So, and the design and interior design and antiques business. So, let's talk about the mansion. Wait, how did you even find it? How did you even know about it? And what got you involved in it?
I was volunteering at the Wilton Historical Society, being proposed to join the Junior League of Stamford. So, anyway, I was proposed, I was accepted. Anne was already a member of the Junior League. They had created committees. The Junior League had voted to accept the Lockwood-Mathews Mansion as a project, and that meant that for the whole year, everything that they did with volunteers had to be for the Lockwood-Mathews Mansion. The Lockwood-Mathews Mansion was destined to be demolished by the city of Norwalk. The city held a vote, a popularity vote. Do you want to tear this building down? And the vote was in favor of not tearing it down.
Yay.
So everybody was happy except the mayor, and the Junior League stepped in and said, well, if we can take possession of it and move our offices in there, we will restore it and run educational programs out of it. The first thing we did was have this committee that decided that we had to have a fundraiser to raise attention and money. So that was called the Charter Membership Dinner. We got several hundred new charter members, including myself and my husband, and a lot of volunteers. We published a little booklet about the mansion. We had very little information, but then it turned out that people found they had some of the stereopticon slides. They didn't do anything to preserve the building because they had heard it was going to be torn down. At some point, I applied for a grant to go to a National Trust meeting in Washington, D.C. about how to run and operate an historic house museum. And I thought, this is just exactly what I need because I haven't the vaguest idea how this should go. So it all worked out very well, and I gave the notes. Well, we all took them and read what I had learned, which was fascinating. These were all new organizations that had been formed because there finally was preservation, and historic buildings came on everybody's radar. We learned about the things that should and should not be done to an historic building. And the rules were enormous. During this time, I was really encouraged by the local, what do we call it here? The American Society of Interior Designers was impressed by how I was going about it and suggesting preservation actions and so on, how to raise money. And the lessons I learned from the Washington experience were amazing. and very helpful. So anyway, she gave me this award for distinguished service in 1973.
Doo-doo-doo.
Yes, and at that time it was very cute. I had a picture taken with George Moore, who was the chairman of the board, sitting on my right, and the guy from the ASID, whose name I can't remember, on the left, and they gave me that award.
And we're going to talk about when you remarried. You got remarried to Dave Findlay. I was in 5th grade, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because it was like living in the Brady Bunch.
Oh, yes.
So Brady Bunch was my favorite show, and I really enjoyed the fact that I had stepbrothers and sisters, especially brothers. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So I was really happy about the whole thing.
Good.
We sold our Tokenique house, and we moved into this house in New Canaan. And well, here's a picture of us at the wedding, and this is at the Tokenique house. So here I am in 5th grade.
Looking very happy.
And older sister Cindy.
Not so happy.
And these are my stepbrothers and sisters, Michael, Hal, Lee, and Kim. And there's Dave Findlay. And it was a wonderful wedding, I thought. I thought it was a great thing. Michael said he wanted to marry me after this. I thought that I was very flattered by that. So
I didn't know that.
It was kind of cool. So
well, he was very sad that he wasn't going off on our honeymoon with us.
So then we sold that Tokenique house, and we moved into this house here in New Canaan. And the decoration here was very different from what my mom liked. So tell us about that.
Well, it was all white walls and so on. But anyway, in the beginning, I didn't really notice much, except that there was a lot of Danish modern furniture. Anyway, I'm glad it's gone. It was gone pretty fast. But he had really pretty nice paintings. Had paintings from his father's gallery. Dave was working for the consulting firm, which name it was very familiar at the time, was very famous. And he was in Europe a lot.
So then he switched jobs, or?
Well, yes, after we married, he said he'd always wanted to get into his father's business, which was an art dealer in New York City. So Dave quit his consulting business and joined the art gallery. So anyway, being married to Dave was really interesting. I moved in this house with 4 cats, and Dave announced loudly he was allergic to cats. And Georgie, I remember, we had a great picture of Georgie sitting on his lap, and it was the only time that cat ever sat on anyone's lap.
I remember. It's like, of all the people, he only sat on the person who didn't like cats. So I remember when I was little and Dave was away, you painted this room, our living room.
True.
So tell us about that.
I had told him I really wasn't very keen on the white walls, and so I guess I had painted them yellow, and that solved that problem for about the first 5 years. But then when he went away on this particular trip, I was determined to make some major changes. So I figured out how to use a tinted glaze on the walls. So when you glaze, not only do you put the glaze on, but then you have to do something to move it around to expose the underneath paint. That's the point of putting on a glaze. It isn't opaque. So I figured you did a strié with a comb, a painter's comb, and it was little stripes, and that didn't excite me very much. So then I put another coat of glaze on of a dark green, and took newspapers and crumpled them up and then blotched the wall. So after 2 or 3 different color glazes, I finally settled on this green one on top. Underneath glazed orange, and then then I blotched that or striated that, and then underneath it is the yellow base paint. So I did the whole room. So
and that was in one night. You finished the whole wall.
Well, I had to go. I think I stopped at a corner, and then I picked up there at various corners.
So when Dave came back from his trip, did he notice it?
No. So finally, I said, "Did you notice anything different in this room?" And so he looked and he said, "Oh my God!" And kind of, how'd you do it? That was the main thing. So I explained how it went. The thing that interested me were antiques. I rented a place in a loft building in Stamford.
So when you had this antiques business in the loft, how did you advertise it, or how did you say, I got stuff for sale over here?
Through trade magazines. So anyway, that stumbled along for a few months, but then I got a call from a woman who said, "Can I come out and see what you're selling?" And I said, "Sure." So she came out from New York and said what she really wanted to talk about was the fact that she was also selling this same stuff. So, but very often this furniture style was a big piece of furniture, and I really needed a big space to. Anyway, that's what this other woman was doing, kind of in tandem at the same time. So I realized I had pretty stiff competition, but between the two of us, maybe we could make somebody notice. But Margot, who was at the big warehouse room, saying that she had a friend who was the PR person for what is it?
American Standard.
American Standard. And it was in the it was a big showroom that they were opening up in a very famous historic deco building
in New York City.
In New York City. And she was interested in having Margot display her furniture there. Maybe I can find someone to share the space with. And I said, well, that sounds very interesting. And it worked out very well. It was a real launch. And finally, the Rita Reef, who was the writer for the New York Times on the art scene, nice article about the gallery there.
We're in the garden. We're going to talk about your relationship with Dave and the new things that were part of your life. What did he introduce you to?
Well, a lot of scary things like sailing. We took cruises with friends.
Actually, they were sailboat trips. They weren't cruises. You weren't on a cruise ship.
That's right.
You were on a sailboat.
Sailboats.
But I remember the first sailboat, it was kind of rugged. We had and then you said,
yes,
if I'm going to go on any more sailboats, there needs to be a bathtub and there needs to be a better cook or something like that. So we had, the next time we went, I don't know if you had a bathtub, but we had a better first mate who cooked.
A couple.
Yeah.
They were wonderful. And he was a major sailor and she was the chef. And we left from Antigua just after a hurricane had gone through. So we had to pull up in the mangrove grove.
Yep, I remember. Mangrove. Yep.
Whatever, and hide from the hurricane.
Yeah.
Until it had passed.
I remember that.
That was a nice cruise.
And another thing you learned by marrying Dave was
skiing. And but he was an avid skier, and he felt that all the children should be skiing all the time. And so we always rented an apartment at the ski slope.
I really liked having Dave around because he was an athlete, and I enjoyed that he would come out and toss a ball with me, and I could go skiing with him. All of that, I really appreciated that a whole lot, and he really took the time. We used to play squash together and tennis together, and I really enjoyed that.
That's really nice.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Woo. So Mimi did a decoration. She decorated a friend. Oh no, start again.
Client.
She decorated a client's house called the Loeb House, and I wanted to find out how you met them, how you got the job, and what that job entailed.
That's good question. Okay, I had a phone call from Michael Loeb, who said, well, we read about your decorating and furnishing business in a little magazine about Victorian houses, and they must have been scoping my ads and picking up this and that. So he said, my girlfriend and I will be up in Darien next weekend, and we are looking at some property there to buy, and so we'd like to talk to you. I said, fine, but come on up to my house. So he walked in the door. He got off his motorcycle and with a girlfriend in the back, and walked into my hall where I have wallpaper on the walls and ceiling and borders. And he walked in and he said, wow, this is what I want. So we came in here and we talked a little bit more about furniture and the house that they were thinking of buying in Darien. And it was an old barn originally and had to be renovated. So they started looking at larger houses in the city that had not been mutilated, as they called them. That was a problem because every time a large house came on the market that was 1890s or so, it would always be stripped until we found a house that had been by a nonprofit organization that was anxious to sell. And it's a brownstone, a wide brownstone. And this was part of a row of 6 or 7 brownstones.
So how long did you work with them to redecorate it?
To do that house was 10 years.
Is this what it's about?
This is all about the story of their house.
That same house?
The same house.
Okay, so this is a book that they created, and is this the wallpaper they used, or what is this?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So they created this book, I guess, after it was all done.
Well after, yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing. So we're going to take a quick look. You open it up and it says the Loeb House. So you had to go and find this wallpaper?
Yes.
And how was that?
This was such a monumental program. They really were not interested in trying to reproduce a little bit of the existing wallpaper. Now that's a ceiling paper from the music room, or maybe the little library, yes. I mean, this was finished in 2010.
What was finished? The house?
Yeah.
Wow.
Last design.
And so they have the
elevation.
Oh, it's huge.
It's big. Yes.
So it sounds like money was no problem with them. You had to find all the
chandeliers,
lamps. Wow.
And some we had to have made, and everything was found here. I found that globe at an antique show.
So it's 2025. They still live there, which is amazing.
Yes.
And I mean, the details here are astounding. But you had to find someone to carve these out?
A woman carved them, and it took her about 4 years to do the whole staircase.
So they were living in the house when all this reconstruction was happening?
Part of it, I would say about half.
Wow.
And they were collecting paintings and furnishings, and then, of course, the wallpaper, which came last.
Wow.
And that's the whole story in itself. But everything is really beautiful.
It really is. It's amazing. All the details and all the, I mean,
we found
as a child, you could kind of get lost looking at this all the time. It's amazing.
You would.
Wow. So we're going to kind of skip through here. I mean, this is just an amazing, amazing house. I mean,
it has a skylight. It has two kitchens. It has the public kitchen on the first floor, all in period. I mean, this was a total new creation. It had been modernized by Alfred Mayer, and actually had some really interesting features. Very contemporary 1950 period.
yeah.
But then after this book, lift that up.
Oh boy.
There are other books.
The patterns.
Now, these are all sections of the wallpaper.
Oh, wow. And we're just kind of wrapping it up here. So we're going to be talking about the last part of what's happened in your world, going through COVID, what you're doing in your life now, and any bits and pieces we haven't covered. So,
okay.
There was a time when Dave died, and how was that for you? What was going on in your world?
Well, we were planning to go on another tour. We'd been going on tout tours, National Trust tours, ever since I finished my project with the Loeb House in 2010. We just went on a travel circuit, and we were trying to figure out what tour we were going to take in the fall. We still hadn't decided, this being September. I know Dave was concerned because he was had supposed to be getting a speaker for the art lecture at the New Canaan Library. So Dave went to this meeting and with Lisa and the library committee, and found they'd done everything, including hiring the speaker. And he was so annoyed, and had written all the PR, hadn't passed it by him for okay. So he was furious, and he came back home, took a couple of aspirin, and I said, well, let's go out for dinner and you can relax. Then we came home, went to bed, and about 3 or 4 in the morning, he woke me up and he couldn't talk. And I said, well, and he wasn't talking clearly. And I said, oh God, I think you're having a stroke.
Yeah.
So I called 911, got the ambulance to come up. So I obeyed the speed limit. It was still prior to daylight. So anyway, by the time I got in the hospital, they had taken some MRIs or examined his brain, and the
emergency? I don't know.
The emergency doctor who had done the X-rays said, "There's no chance here. The blood is flowing out of his brain so fast, and it's not going to stop."
Oh.
Okay, so within 5 minutes of arriving at the hospital, I knew this was it. So I guess I must have used a cell phone and contacted his son, Hal, told him to tell everybody. And he went back into the room and was unconscious. I went into a room that we could all gather at. So by mid-morning, I think about then, everybody was here. And he was semi-conscious and then unconscious. So I even had his ex-wife, Birgit, contacted. So we went through 3 days and had to decide whether we were going to just do hospice care or continue to keep him otherwise healthy, although his brain was a mess. So for 3 days, we sort of hung in here and waited, and finally he just died.
But didn't you read his?
He had written a living will, and we read it out loud. If I have to, I don't want to live paralyzed or incapacitated if I can't talk. So there was no question that his mind was shot right now, and there was no way that he was going to get that blood out of his system and be able to talk. So we said, let him go and put him in hospice. And that's what happened. So after that, and before the third day he was hospitalized, that was the day that I got the call from Kim that Dave had died as I was driving down to the hospital. So that went planning, and he had a huge number of friends from Deerfield who came.
You also had the golf, the Three Musketeers or something, the golf group that he played golf with.
Yes, yeah, that was sweet. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So being a widower twice, a widow twice, how was that for you?
I was not nearly as concerned and worried and upset as I was when Peter died, because mainly I knew it was going to be hard, so I kind of braced myself for that. But I didn't have the concern of two young girls who were devastated.
Yeah,
people were at an age where, although Dave was just 80 something.
I think it was 70, 78, 79.
Before he was 80?
Yeah, before he was 80, I think. I'm not sure.
But it was not uncommon for husbands to die. So I wasn't quite so the center of attention.
How old was Daddy when he died?
My father?
No, my father.
Your
Peter, first husband.
Peter. He was 39.
39. Oh, I thought he was 36.
Yeah, that
39.
was really young.
Well, I remember when I came to visit and you had a little picture of Dave on the dining room table. And I thought, oh, that's so sweet. You kept him around. Even though he wasn't there, he was still there, and that was really lovely.
Okay.
So now that we've been through COVID, and I see you are researching something, or what are you doing now?
I'm researching a lot of stuff.
All the research you've done to
yes, I have most of it. A lot of it is at the mansion. The original letters from the Lockwood family are in the mansion, but I copied most of them that I needed, that I thought were relevant. Yes, it's all here.
Okay.
On the table.
Yeah, is this the table?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to get a picture of the table.
I have the history of every house that we have honored with in New Canaan. They will go to the Historical Society if they still want that material. It's questionable whether they're taking it or whether it'll end up in a dumpster. I don't know. Amen.
Amen. I think we did it.
Well, you've been very good.
Yeah. We have finished our program, and I hope you enjoyed it.